It is official. James Hagens has finally signed his entry-level deal with the Boston Bruins as they are in an absolute time of need for this contract to become active. We're going to be breaking it down, going over what this means, not just for James Hagens, but also ahead of the playoffs and where he will play when we do see this first round matchup. We have a lot to break down here in today's video. Before we do get into it, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Bruins, and we got a lot of stuff to cover now, especially with Hagens signed ahead and throughout the playoffs. So if you want to stay up to date with everything, be sure to drop a sub. But we need to get straight into this because this really came out of nowhere. The day after the Bruins actually started to score, they signed James Hagens. And as you see, the Bruins tweeting this out, Hagens is here. They've signed him to a 3-year entry-level contract, and it was only a matter of time. And after he did sign that amateur tryout that he did have with the Providence Bruins, we knew it was just a matter of time until the Bruins wanted to get him into the main roster, the NHL roster, and get him rolling. And it is now officially time, and we're going to jump into, where the Bruins are and where this really all came from here in a moment, but with 4 points in 6 games down in Providence, a goal and 3 assists, it was time. We saw what we needed. We got the taste of what James Hagens can do at a professional level, and having that translate now from a Providence Bruins team to a Boston Bruins team with what's going to be much better line mates no matter where he plays. He's going to have a lot of work that's going to be put into his game, but also his game is going to adjust the way the Bruins play. And we're going to see that now, in a couple of days' time where the Bruins got a hefty schedule off, thankfully with a very, busy schedule over the past month or so. But you see Scott McLaughlin say this: the Bruins were off today, will presumably practice for Hagens on Thursday for the first time, and he also could make his NHL debut against Tampa on Saturday, which is their next game. And that seems like it's likely the thing that is going to happen. And there's a few things that we can really kind of assume from this and go about where things are going to be. And with James Hagens now being signed, they have a couple days until their next game, but also only a few games left in the season. You can see that Tampa, Columbus, and New Jersey, they're going to be able to get a good taste of what Hagens will actually bring to the table before getting him into the playoffs and letting him work his magic for the first time there. It's a much smarter thing to do. It's also a big thing that they can say, hey, it's going to be a risk-free move. If he is not playing well, we don't need to put him in the lineup. If he is, we certainly can make some adjustments. So we're going to make, kind of go over what those could be here in a moment. But before we do, this video is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picking app, and they want to get you in on all of the action. Be sure to go download the app using the link in the description and the pinned comment, and if you use the code DIGEST as well, you'll get access to a whole bunch of opportunities and some very cool picks. And we're going to show some of mine here later in this video, so be sure to stick around because it is a very, very hot one, and you will not want to miss it. But going into the standings right now, we're going to touch on this a little bit more. The Bruins still are finding themselves third in the Atlantic, or fourth, in the Atlantic. Could end up being, a very close situation between whoever they play, whether it is Tampa, whether it is Montreal, whether it is Buffalo. Very tight there. But I don't see any movement down or up, really. It really seems like the Bruins now are going to stay fourth here in the Atlantic. But when we kind of take a look at it this way as a wild card standings right now, there still is a lot of interesting things to think about because Montreal is on an 8-game win streak. They are only 2 points behind Tampa, and we would play first in the Atlantic. And having that as an option right now certainly seems to be an interesting one because of who is available, who we could end up playing. And there's a few matchups I would much prefer. I think even though Buffalo is on a bit of a hot streak right now, and the season as a whole has been great for them, I'd much rather play Buffalo because of their lack of experience in the playoffs than really anybody else that we would have an option to play. And that's still a lot of things to do, but having Hagens available for whatever matchup that is going to be is very, very useful. There's no doubt that having Hagens in this lineup immediately not just boosts the skill you have because of his ability and what we've seen from him throughout his career with Boston College, but also, with the Team USA and the World Juniors, whatever we've seen him over the last couple of years, he's been fantastic. And having him, what could be maybe a first line, moving Minton away from that first line for the time being, whether it be a third line and move around Elias Lindholm, there's a lot of opportunities because the second line's not going to be broken up. That is for sure. The first line has been playing good. Do they decide to move either Fraser Minton or Murat Kuznetsov maybe down to the third or fourth line? The third line has also not been bad, and that's something as well that I'm curious to see if they'd be willing to change. And that's where it really comes down to the difference between the playoffs, but also the regular season is to, are you comfortable choosing to move any of these guys? And, there's going to be a lot of work for Marco Sturm on this idea, this concept, but I wouldn't rather have anybody else than him to do this and work this out at this time being. And this is a kind of an interesting time as well because, looking at the last game we saw the Bruins play, that 6-5 overtime loss to Carolina yesterday, they ended up, really being able to pile the shots, but also putting the puck in the back of the net well. But prior to that, they had scored 3 goals in 3 games. And before that Carolina game, that's where I thought we would have seen James Hagens. But with the break they have right now, the 4-day break until their next game, having the ability to get James Hagens into mock lines in practice, having a few, line rushes throughout practices that they do have in optional skates with the Bruins to make sure that you're getting him in a comfortable situation. It's a much smarter idea than putting him in any of those other games, most of which you wanted to win, even though you didn't, but you did get a point against Philadelphia and Carolina. But it also goes to show, you look at the wins they had prior. Buffalo, Minnesota, Columbus, Dallas, some very, very good teams. And even a 3-1 loss to Tampa, that's not a bad one. A 6-5 loss in overtime to Carolina, that's also not a bad one. So it's a good timing. It's very, very good timing to make this work for the Bruins and get Hagens into the lineup. And for people who are, worrying about this and thinking that James Hagens shouldn't be here, it's too early, I just want to pull this up because I think this is one thing that will give you a nice safety blanket and a bit more comfort to the idea of it. The Flyers put in Porter Martone 4 points in 5 games with his debut after his Michigan State opportunity that he had this season. First year, 50 points in 35 games. It's worked out well for him, including 2 goals in a win. So, this should be another level of comfort. James Hagens, I think, is a much more prepared player than Porter Martone, so I would also take that and, run with it. So we'll have some opportunities over the next couple of days to see how things do play out. Now, before we do finish this video off, we have a few more updates here, so be sure to stick around. Want to go over my picks from Prize Picks for tonight. Got a bit of an interesting one because I'm going 2 very, very bold ones. The first one, not so much. I'm going more than 2.5 shots for Connor McDavid. That's, just about every game will happen. But where it gets interesting, I'm going more than 1.5 goals for Cole Caulfield. Still searching for his 50th against Tampa. You know that Montreal team is going to be hungry. Caulfield's been unbelievable as of late. And 2 goals, I don't think is a surprise to anybody. So I'm going more than 1.5 goals. I'm also going more than half a goal from Macklin Celebrini against the Edmonton Oilers. Fighting for top spot. The Oilers are in the the Pacific. So Macklin, he's going to be hot as well. He wants to make sure this team is ready to go, and he's going to be able to run that. So let me know what you think about these picks. But looking at the playoff matchups that the opportunity, right now is present for the Boston Bruins, it's going to be either Tampa, Buffalo, or Montreal. And if it does remain Tampa right now, it doesn't necessarily look the greatest in terms of matchup-wise, but I trust this team. We know they're good. We know that the faceoffs have been a very big part of them this season, and we know that Tampa's have not. If you can get an opportunity, you have an opportunity to get a goal, a shot, another save, a faceoff. It all works down from, your ability to get control of the puck, and the Bruins have been well with that this year. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of all of this here, especially the James Hagens signing. But that is all I have. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well if you want to stay up to date with everything Boston Bruins. But like I said, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.